When I'm building a relationship and I have a business that's built on sales and bottom line profits, I just want to become a trusted advisor to you, the customer, and tell you when it's time to change one of the components on this investment.
Welcome to the Strategy with Jason podcast. Tune in for everything you need to know to stay in the know regarding the automotive industry. Here's your host, Jason Harris.
Hey, what's going on, Podcast Nation? This is Jason Harris, and thank you for joining me on an episode of the Golden Wrench Podcast, where I get to talk about anything and everything I want to talk about when it comes to the fixed ops industry. I am super excited for today's guests, a wealth of knowledge and some very fun topics that we're going to be diving into. But hey, before we get into our guests real quick, I just want to take a moment and say thank you to our sponsors. And here's a quick message from them.
For years, I've been saying that you have to process your way to profitability, and no one knows that better than the folks at Repair 360. You all know how important it is to have a fast, streamlined used car reconditioning process. Remember, time kills profit. Getting a used car frontline ready in less time while providing transparent communication between departments is what Repair 360 is all about. With Repair 360's automated used car recon manager, you will drive recon times down while giving sales the visibility they need to stop complaining. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding about that part. Anyways, you have to check out their website at repair360.com and see how they can revolutionize your reconditioning process.
All right. Hey, thanks, guys, for watching. I really appreciate you taking the time to check this out. Today, we have the one, the only, the oh so famous Elgie. I'm trying to set this up for you, brother. Really, I'm just trying to make this a big one for you.
I love it.
I have Elgie Bright with me from Northwood University. Elgie, how you doing, man?
I'm doing really well. Thanks, Jason. I appreciate being here today.
Dude, we're gonna have a lot of fun. We got a chance to jam a little bit before we were recording. I know you are just a car guy through and through. We got a chance to talk about that C8 poster in the back there, and your love for a specific sports, team that maybe I'm not a fan of. No, I'm just kidding. LG. We won't go there. We don't do sports on this podcast. I promise you. I understand. Yeah. All right. Hey, LG, for everybody out there watching, listening right now, and don't know who you are, I love kicking off these podcasts with a little origin story. So how did you get started in this crazy little world we call the automotive industry?
I appreciate it, Jason. Well, I am, I'm from Michigan, and so my dad worked in a gray iron foundry, and it seems like, everybody in Michigan works in the automotive industry somewhere, somehow. My dad was in a gray iron foundry that made castings for the big trucks in Muskegon, Michigan. And I went to college, and my very, very first job out of college was a district manager for Kmart. And at the time, Uniroyal ran the service department, and that's kind of where I started for the first couple of years. And the great thing about Kmart, I met my wife, who I've now been married to for almost 39 years, and she didn't take me back. But a friend of mine who's still in the retail business, we were talking one day. We went to college, and he said, get off the road doing the Kmart thing. And, come into a dealership. And this was all before internet. I didn't know that much about dealership sales and service. And the particular dealer that he was at was going to have a change in a month or so. But I just went up and down Telegraph Road in Southfield, Michigan, and put in my resume. If what he said was true, here's enough dealerships. And I started with Art Moran. And I actually started writing collision and writing service at Art Moran way back in the day. And that's how I got into business. That's how I got the love for retail automotive and got a chance to see what not only fixed ops, but what dealerships do in the community. Mm-hmm. From there, after almost 10 years, I went to General Motors and mostly field positions, field sales, field service, field parts. I did work in a couple other office positions, distribution, customer assistance.
Now, what year was that? What year were you with GM? What year?
So I started with GM in '97. Yeah. So
you were at the height. You were at the height of like GM, like everything. Like let's take one car and build it 17 different ways, right?
Yeah. Interesting, because one of the jobs that I had was vehicle order management, and so we were talking about Corvettes earlier, but dealers would call in the inventory managers, and if they were going to make plant changes, they could make changes up to a certain event. But if they were going to change the wheels or God forbid that they had to change color, could do that at the plant, but it had to go through distribution. And of course, you don't want to take anything out of sequence, but we did make some changes from time to time, trying to deliver the best customer experience, especially around specific vehicles such as a Corvette. And then working for General Motors, I connected with Northwood and did my MBA program at Northwood, wonderful dealership executive MBA. And when a retirement happened at Northwood University, I raised my hand. I just love what happens with the students that are trying to get in our business, yes. Automotive marketing, automotive management. And I've had the wonderful opportunity to chair the program now. This is going on my 13th year at Northwood.
That's awesome. And Northwood does have just such an amazing program. I mean, for everybody out there that's an alumni, shout out to you guys, because it is truly a killer program. Well, hey, I wanted to kind of like really let's get into kind of our main topic today.
Yes.
Right? By the way, I love the topics you picked.
Yes.
And I don't want to give away the farm yet, because if you're watching and listening right now, we got some cool ones. But we're going to get into something that I think has been a topic, I feel, for the last couple of decades. But I think it's still it's a relevant topic, because I still think we still haven't perfected it yet, and we want to get into selling in the service lane.
That's
and
right.
I know there's so many different aspects of that particular topic that we can kind of attack. So I'll let you kind of kick it off.
Sure.
When selling in the service lane, what do you like? What's your first thought when you kind of get into that topic?
Well, my first thought is always delivering the best customer experience, and the best way that you can protect the investment that a customer has in this vehicle is selling to them those things that are necessary to the performance of that vehicle. And I really in its essence, I will know that there's a great job of selling in the service lane when 6 categories go up for the parts manager. And then I know you're having a really good walk around, building a relationship with the customer when we're doing a great job with wiper blades, batteries, cabin air filters, engine air filters, and then the around the wheel, including tires and any of the suspension parts. And so these are also, when you think about tires, it's a point of defection where a customer could possibly leave the dealership and go to the aftermarket or a competitor because nobody ever told him that the tires were wearing. And then when the tires are wearing, when you find out that you have a flat tire, you want to get the kids to soccer, or you want to go get some groceries, or you're trying to go to work. And yet, if you're delivering that customer experience, if you come in for those oil changes, if you've come back to the dealership for warranty work, it is just a great process to make sure that you're stabbing those tires, and you're also building credibility because you're telling them, hey, they're good. Hey, they're good. Hey, I'm going to keep my eye on them. Hey, I would recommend that you replace those tires. And whether you have a good, better, best type of merchandising process, at this point, you've built credibility with the customer. So, and for us at Northwood, and we know the listeners in the industry, sales isn't a dirty word. When I'm building a relationship and I have a business that's built on sales and bottom line profits. I just want to become a trusted advisor to you, the customer, and tell you when it's time to change one of the components on this investment.
Well,
And so,
I love
yeah,
the fact that you're bringing that up, because that's the lifelong approach to it, right? I think, look, I understand, because I've been a business owner. I've owned a dealership before.
Sure.
I understand the stress of having to maintain those monthly revenue numbers, goals,
Sure.
and objectives, and so on, right? But that's a short-sighted approach if we're only looking at the singular transaction that they're in front of me.
Sure.
If I'm only ever just thinking of that one singular transaction, it's a
That's right.
very short-sighted approach to ultimately building a long-term
That's right.
relationship. And I love the fact that you're kind of going down this path, right? Because and I love, and I do want to go down the rabbit hole of deflection.
Sure.
Because I'm seeing there's a lot of holes in the boat.
Yeah.
Right now, and I think from a process perspective, you nailed it, right? Like, it's creating the experience, which thus I actually think creates the relationship, right?
That's right.
But I want to go with you before we kind of go farther down that path. I want to go back just a minute and talk a little bit about deflection, because I'm with you.
Sure.
Deflection is all about process, people, and what technology is going to help me remove that deflection. What are some of the biggest deflection points you're seeing right now in the industry that we need to be focusing on?
Well, and it's not delivering on the customer experience. I mean, we are in the business, and I'm sure the listeners to this great podcast are in the business. But our customers are comparing experiences. They bought a book one way 20 years ago. They buy a book a different way today. Their vacations, the restaurant, the hotels, and they know what a great experience looks like. And so if you're not delivering on that, and my expectations are that I will have a great experience even in the car servicing business, I'm going to find somebody who will deliver on that great experience. And it's a misnomer that customers aren't loyal. Customers are loyal. If you talk to entrepreneurs that own restaurants, that go to Disney all the time instead of going to Vegas or a cruise ship, that go to the mountains or the beach, it's just that they're loyal in different ways today. And you want to tap into that loyalty by being the type of business that every customer matters. And the fact of the matter, and I know that we've got, Tesla as an outlier, every vehicle, go to your busiest highway, your busiest street, every vehicle came from a new car franchise dealer. We had them first. And it's not that we're going to keep them all, and because there's many, many different ways that a customer can buy that first vehicle, through the internet. They're out of market, but we had them first. I mean, every vehicle was sold there, and if we're really, really proud of fixed operations, when we're making those introductions, the service advisors, consultants, the writers are just building on the experience that has already been started through the sale.
No, I'm with you. I think and just for everybody out there watching, listening, I just want to make sure we really kind of capitalize on kind of what LG is saying right now. It's like he's saying one of the biggest deflection points in your department right now is it starts just with your experience.
That's right.
And LG, I think you're 100% right. Like, I mean, we don't compare. Like, I'm not comparing my Midas experience to my dealership experience. I'm comparing, the experience I had at the restaurant last week. Where I walked in and the guy at the bar recognized me and he goes, "Hey, you want?" And he said, he asked me if I wanted the same drink I ordered last time. And I'm like, "Wow, well, that was kind of nice." I must be a guy to know, because he didn't know. I mean, but do you know what I mean? Like, that made me feel warm and cozy, and it was a unique experience because I sat down and he just like, same thing last time. I'm like, yeah, you remember that? Like that, you know what I mean? Because I felt known. That created that experience. Anyways, I saw it. Go ahead with your thought.
And why do people stand in line for hours, to buy that phone today? And then take it to the Genius Bar, and the one person not only helps them with whatever the issue is, but then cashes them out, right there. And so the experience is just different. Think about, and I might be jumping ahead here, Jason, but just think about your delivery process. And if the delivery process at your dealership is that the customer comes back in, comes to a cashier, they tell them that we got everything all set. They tell them where the keys are at, and they tell them where the car is parked out in the parking lot, and not ever going over the repair or any of that. That's the same thing we did back in the 80s. And if you watch every other aspect of your life as a consumer change, from the restaurant to the way that you consume movies today, if you watch everything change, and yet we haven't changed in the dealerships, it's just a matter of time, and especially in our service department.
You're so right. I saw a stat the other day, and it I got to be honest, LG, it surprised me a little bit and made me kind of take a moment to think about it. But I after the warranty expires, the stat I saw recently was over 40% of the customers stop servicing at your dealership. So once the warranty expires, we're losing over 40% of our business. And I was like, what? And, I had to think about it. I'm like, you know what? Actually, the more I think about it, it might actually even be higher.
It's some of them, and we've done studies here.
I'd love to hear your thoughts. Yes, please.
Yeah, no, we have the aftermarket here at Northwood University, a great aftermarket department, and some technology companies, some of the white papers research have it as high as 70%. 7 out of 10 customers that have defected to tire shops and Midas and muffler shops and service shops and chain stores like Walmart, for various aspects that can be done in the dealership. How much of that business do we want? How much of that high gross, quick service do we want back in the dealerships? And it's there for the taking. It's just that customers defect for a number of reasons. Usually it's around capabilities or convenience, expertise, or treatment.
It's really kind of but that all comes down to what we were talking about. Is that experience?
Yes.
Right? So really, if you are 70%, I mean, I can see it. I can 100% see it. But here's the other thing too. I also got to push back on some of the automotive technology out there, because there's not a good report for this. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So look, if you're a tech provider out there and you're in the fixed ops space, I'm going to give you a little crap for this, because I as a dealer, I never saw this report, but I'm sure it did happen. I'm 100% convinced it did happen. But, to your point, it all comes down to that experience. Look, if the experience wasn't great from the beginning, all right, once the warranty is expired, what's the point in continuing to come back when, to your point, it wasn't convenient, or maybe they weren't nice, or maybe it wasn't transparent? I'm with you. Now, I do want to kind of, and I think we could probably make a whole podcast actually just on this one topic. But there was another topic that you brought up, and I wanted to dive into it because I think it's a good segue kind of into this.
Sure.
Really kind of getting more into now the system part of it, right?
Yeah.
So we, you made the comment that we need to view fixed ops as a production system.
Yes.
Which I think when that's probably executed correctly, ultimately creates a great experience, which, like I said, good connection to what we've just been talking about. But can you elaborate a little bit more on what you mean by that?
Sure. When managers get into systems thinking, they look at every aspect, every variable as something that can either be improved on, or those closest to that particular variable should be looking at it to be improved on. So for the service department, I mean, how do we acquire a customer? What are we doing in terms of marketing, or even before that, when they're buying that newer used car? Is there an introduction to the service department, setting up their first visit to the service department? So whether that's an oil change on a new car, or perhaps something on a used car based on time or mileage. And then from there, how they're going to be greeted when they come in, how they're going to be written up, how that vehicle is going to flow through the shop, assigning the skills and the dispatch, and then one of the most important things, how it's going to be redelivered to the customer. Is it going to be in a better condition or value added? And then what is the follow up? And in between there are a number of different steps. The waiting room,
Yes.
What amenities we're going to have for that customer. All just trying to deliver on in terms of system thinking that the customer has a satisfactory, really value added experience. On the simplest repair to the most complex. It's going to be there for a while. How does that customer get back home or to work or to school? And, are they going to be contacted the way that they want to be contacted, by text or cell or office phone? And all of these different variables. And you could go through 100 different steps, but they're all inspected and measured. And that's really system thinking in a production shop. And service managers are so good. I mean, they measure productivity and efficiency with the technicians. But even before that, I mean, how many units in operation or VIO, vehicles in operation, are in our trade area, and how am I marketing to them with a number of different techniques to get them into my shop? Because let's face it, what do we sell? We sell time, and we want to sell all available time and sell it profitably within the shop. So the system thinking, there's a number of different ways that you can use it. I particularly, and I learned this at Art Moran, and it is, it's total quality management, TQM. That's a Dr. Deming thing. Don't want to go into it too deep. And it's really production or manufacturing principles, but you can use it in a retail environment. That just means that you inspect and measure every aspect from beginning to end. And if there's any variable, there's a constraint or there's a hiccup along the way, how do you overcome that? And who can raise the question of that hiccup or constraint? We know if there's a part that's back ordered, that there's a process.
When it's obvious, yes, when it's obvious.
To try to get that. But what about if you have a number of different CSI scores where the customers are saying, well, nobody, it's a bring it back, a second and a third or a fourth time. What's the way that you could inspect and measure? Maybe if you started going over the repairs and explain that to a customer. Somebody came in for left front speaker squeaking, and nobody ever went over and come to find out that we replaced the right front speaker as soon as they got in the car.
It's that production. And by the way, Elgie, I love this idea. And I love the visual, actually, of this production system. Yeah. I sometimes get fascinated and fixed on specific words and sentences. So sure. I'm really my brain is like stuck on the word production. Okay. Yeah. And I'll tell you why, because I really do think it is a production, right? Like there's a lot of moving pieces. Like, you got the front, you got the back, you got your advisors, you got your tech. So you have your people.
Yes.
You have your process.
Yes.
You have your technology. All right. Yep. And all three of these things have to kind of come together in this beautiful, like, just symphony. And okay, that's where my brain's going. I hear production, and that's where I'm going. Also, what I hear is like, so, when I grew up, my mom owned restaurants, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, if you've ever worked in the restaurant industry, you understand, very similar to a delership, there's the front and then there's the back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And, my mom always used to call it the show. The show. And I always thought it was kind of interesting because, it'd be like, hey guys, it's 2 hours till showtime, right?
Yeah.
That's when the restaurant opened and people started showing up and things had to happen, right?
Yeah.
And here's the interesting thing I found about the show. A show happens regardless if you're intentional about it or not.
That's true.
Do you know what I mean?
That's true.
Look, I've had the opportunity to visit some amazing operators, right?
Yeah.
I have some amazing dealerships and maybe some not so much. But so like I can immediately tell. I go back into the fix ops department in the back, and I can tell if this is going to be a shit show,
Right. Yeah.
or it's going to be a well-conducted, orchestrated event.
Yeah.
But I'm totally with you right there. We have to have that mindset
That's right.
of this production system, this production mod. And here's one of the things, LG, and I'd love to get your thoughts on this, because this is what I'm a patterns guy. So I like to see patterns and I identify patterns. One of the patterns I have noticed over the many, many years of being in the business is a total lack of written processes, or let's call them playbooks.
Yes.
And I see you smiling, so I know you got a thought on this. So take it away.
Well, I mean, that's one of the first things I ask if I'm consulting with a dealership. Show me your written process.
There we go.
If from the lot person to the writer consultant to the service manager, cashier, whoever I'm talking to, if they can't put their hand on a written process, it's almost as if it didn't exist.
I can actually see you going full Jerry Maguire on them. Going, where's the process? Where's the process?
Where's it written?
Where's
it written? And I love it that you keyed in on production, because if we're going to produce profits, if we're going to the bottom line, then every one of these steps matters. And I love what you said about the restaurant too. And I think about just baking a cake. So if the listeners and Jason and I are big guys, if I just put sugar and milk and eggs and put it all in a pan, put it in the oven, I'm going to have a complete mess. But if Jason, who has worked around restaurants, puts it in the right measure and stirs when it's supposed to be stirred and puts it in the right pan at the right temperature, then he's going to produce a cake that we all can eat. And it's same ingredients, maybe even the same amount, but I just throw it in and you do it with some intentionality. And which one do you want to eat? The mess, or do you want to eat the cake? And so that's what I really get to when I'm talking about production systems. That's what I get to when I talk about written processes that everybody can understand. And then it comes into those things that we're all familiar with. And your managers that are listening, those huddles, those sales and service huddles. Mm-hmm. Sales is great about it. I mean, they have that morning meeting all the time, but in the service department, whether it's 5 minutes, whether it's 20 minutes, whether a half hour, or you take an hour, whether it's every day or it's the week, do you talk about those things that are written down in the processes, celebrate the wins, correct those things that are either ties or losses, and keep continually trying to improve? And that's really that systems thinking, that every day we get the opportunity to improve, whether it's a simple thing or whether it's something more complex. We're all constrained by time, space, and money.
Yes.
But there's simple things, greeting the customer. Are we using their names? Yeah.
There's simple things, but to your point, LG, if you don't have them documented,
that's right.
All right. Even the most simplest things can be executed 15 different ways, not the one way that you actually want to get it done. And but you're 100% right. If you're out there watching, listening to this, I think you can hear, what me and LG are kind of like pushing here, right? If there's any agenda we're trying to push, it's like, neither one of us better show up to your dealership without you having a process. You better have a like, show me the process, because that's what will happen if one of us show up to the dealership. That's exactly what's going to happen. Is we want to see that, because from that process or playbook, playbook maybe sounds a little more less. Yeah, a little more friendly. Okay, we'll go with playbook. Show me that playbook, because then we can stress test that against your people and against your technology and make sure you got that right mix that ultimately creates the experience, going back to the beginning of our conversation, that is going to help you get away from losing those customers at the end of that warranty, or them choosing to go service elsewhere. Like, I know I'm getting on a soapbox. It happens a lot when I'm on this podcast.
Yeah, I love it, Jason. I love playbook. I love coaching. I love, you said losing. I mean, it all gets into kind of that sports mentality. You don't even have to love sports, but all those things happen in a game. I mean, you got to practice, and you have to have a playbook, and you have to coach.
Can you imagine your Cardinals going out to play a game, or was it Cardinals?
No, Lions, man, Detroit Lions.
Jeez, okay, that's a shame I got that wrong. But no, imagine your Lions go out there and say, "Hey guys, let's play ball today." Something good. Throw it around, run a little bit.
Yeah,
we'll see what happens. But seriously, I mean, for a lot of fixed ops departments, that is kind of what is happening right now. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a lot of great operators that listen to this.
There is.
Because
there is. Yeah.
But hey,
there's great operators and managers listening to this podcast right now. They're saying, "Hey, we got this.
We understand the show, man. We show up, we prep for it, and that show is coordinated and it is beautiful." I know we're getting towards the tail end of our time, but LG, before I let you go though, I want to talk real quick. Northwood University, monster fan. I know a lot of people listening are alumni. All right, what's going on right now?
So Northwood, we're getting ready for full tank automotive camp. And that's where we're going to bring high schoolers in, and we're just going to expose them to the business. We're going to our local retailers and show them how great this business is. And you managers out there, you folks that work in dealerships, we love it. We're fans of the business, so we want the high schoolers to see it. They may never have considered a dealership, but they probably will after they do our full tank camp, which is a full week. It's powered by General Motors. We're going to Automotive Hall of Fame and Sloan Museum and an auction. The other thing, the first weekend in October, we put on the world's largest outdoor auto show, and supported by, again, our dealer friends. We've got new cars, we've got collector cars, we've got boats and RVs and specialty vehicles. That's the first weekend in October.
First week in October, LG, count me in.
Yes.
I'm 100% coming. That sounds like a blast. And you know what? What just a really cool way to introduce the next generation into this amazing industry. I know, guys, if you're watching and listening, maybe in this podcast, me and LG gave you a little bit of tough love, but that's only because we just have so much passion and love for this industry that has, granted us this amazing opportunity to be here and talk to you amazing folks out there. LG, for everybody out there watching and listening who would love to connect with you, and maybe just kind of, learn a little bit more about what's going on at Northwood, or just, connect with you and ask you a few questions. What's the best way to do so?
Best way is BrightE at northwood.edu. BrightE at northwood.edu, or connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just LG Bright, ELGIE BRIGHT, like the bright light. And I'll connect with anybody on LinkedIn, and then BrightE at northwood.edu. And those are the two best ways to connect with me, and let's have a conversation. And the great thing about it is I learn every day. I make that intentional, not only from great podcasts like this one, but I'm talking to sales and service managers, people that are in the business. And anyone that's out there, that you can get better every day, especially if you're the kind of person that's inspired by this business. And I certainly am.
I am too. LG, thank you so much, man, for taking the time to do this today. This has been a lot of fun.
I appreciate you.
Watching, listening, we appreciate you taking the time to check this out. Again, thank you to our sponsors. Without this, none of this is possible. But thank you for your time. You guys have yourself an amazing day.
Thank you, Jason.
Thanks for tuning in to the Strategy with Jason podcast with your host, Jason Harris. Don't want to miss new content? Be sure to check out the full podcast library at strategywithjason.com to stay in the know. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Happy podcasting.